Hello and welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast, the American football podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. This is the preview crew, and I'm your host, Keith McGinty. From all the crew to you and yours, we hope you had a very merry and happy New Year. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. In this episode of the preview crew, we're looking ahead to the Week 18 matchups, where the remaining 5 playoff positions will be sealed. We'll start with our kick-off question, look over the rest in one, and give our fantasy studs and sleepers. Like a first-choice starting quarterback, crew members have been in short supply due to the holidays, but thankfully, I have some of the finest faces of the franchise here to join me tonight. First up, we have Scud. Wait, it's Dan. He seems the wrong crew member has reported as active. Welcome, Dan. Happy New Year to you, buddy. How are you?
Happy New Year, everybody. I'm great, mate. It's good to be back after the break. Again, I'm in the wrong box again tonight, so I'm very confused, but we'll run with it. How's yourself?
Good. Right, okie dokie. And we are also joined by Hamilton owns Big Chief as well. Studs, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, not bad. To the wee change of top tonight, I didn't think it was right to wear my Pat Mahomes one since he's on rest duty this week, and my Blaine Gabbert one's in the wash. So I've just went with kind of standard black KC t-shirt tonight.
Is that because you're mourning the fact that you've not got the Arrowhead Invitational this year?
I'm sure we'll discuss that, but I do have a point on that. A tease for later, Dan. A tease for later.
Love it.
Guys, I was totally confused there. We are now live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter. And for the first time for the preview crew, we are live on Instagram as well. And I was utterly confused because as I click on live on Instagram, it has like a 5-second delay, and then the audio from us is going in there. I don't know how they do it in the real telly with the producer speaking in their ears like that. I'm definitely left ear, so I've only got one good ear, and that was confusing as hell there. But anyway, we're good. We're thingy. Hopefully, it was totally seamless. Nobody would have noticed that at all.
I'm sure you can make it seamless when you edit it, Keith.
Totally. So this will be available next Tuesday for everyone. Right, good. Let's get started. It's been a big day, busy day. The Pro Bowl players have been announced, and there's been a wee bit of debate about who should have and should not have been there. Studs, I'm sure you've got a wee bee in your bonnet about one of the players who's been left out, certainly. But I'm looking for you guys then to come up with your own flag 5-a-side Pro Bowl team from the names that have been announced. So Dan, I'll start with you. Who would you pick for your Pro Bowl team? So what we've got to have, got a QB, RB, wide receiver. What about the other two?
Linebacker and cornerback. See, I went a wee bit off scale. I just went with who I thought was the best players this year and who'd make up a good team. I've not went with Pro Bowlers because you've not got many to choose from in terms of each position. So I've just took it league-wide with mine. So there's probably no surprises who my quarterback's going to be here, and it's not Dak Prescott because that wouldn't be a surprise. But I went with Justin Herbert as my quarterback. So very obvious choice for me.
Yeah. Big fan. He's injured though.
He's injured, but we're going to off-season. For running back, I've went with Justin Fields. I'm going with Bijan Robinson as my running back. That might surprise a few people because there's obviously a lot of contenders out there. CMC being obvious pick, but
Arthur Smith will certainly be surprised. Arthur Smith will certainly be surprised.
We still got a game for me.
He's a receiver. What?
I know. He's a blocking running back. You can't carry the ball. So yeah, I mean, we spoke about Bijan before the start of the season. We've not seen a lot of him this year. When we have seen him, he has shown up what he can do. So I went with Bijan as my running back. Wide receiver, one of the breakout players this year. I thought very unfortunate to get injured. Again, there's a lot of obvious picks out there, but I've went with Tank Dell for my wide receiver. I think he's been absolutely outstanding this year. And that injury was it's just one of those bad luck things that happen. When somebody breaks out, is doing well, always something happens. And unfortunately for him this year, it's been that injury. But what a season he has had so far. Linebacker, this is an obvious pick. Complete true homer pick. I went with Micah Parsons. I don't think it could have been anybody else in there, to be fair. I know there's a lot of players this year. We spoke on the previous pods about who could be up for Defensive Player of the Year from the linebacker position, but I couldn't not go with the homer pick with that one. And for my cornerback, there was a few I looked at. I've looked at this season only, not who I feel are the best cornerbacks in the league, because I could easily went with Trayvon Diggs, but I thought, no,
Yeah.
that's one of my best surprise studs a wee bit, but I've went with Trent McDuffie as my cornerback.
Mm.
So there we go. So Justin Herbert, Bijan Robinson, Tank Dell, Micah Parsons, Trent McDuffie. There's my 5.
It's a very good season, to be fair. McDuffie, he's had a good year.
He has.
That's dynasty team, that one. That's it. You're thinking of the future as well for that
That's
team
it.
there. Studs, what about yourself? What did you go for?
Again, when we're talking of positions, there's quite a few I could have went very easily homer picks. So I've tried to avoid the obvious ones, because normally QB I would go Pat Mahomes and things like that. So I'm not going to do that. I've tried to kind of go a wee bit out of the box. If you're doing kind of flag football 5-a-side type thing, you're looking for a running. Probably tells you who I'm going to go for when I said running back rather than quarterback, to be honest. You're looking for somebody that's mobile. I'm going Lamar Jackson. He's had a cracking season this year with the Ravens. I stick on for the MVP, I think, especially since it is a QB-driven award. And I think he's the obvious choice at QB for me there. Running back, I was kind of torn to go homer, because I think Pacheco has had a great year this year. And he's looked good out of the backfield. He's probably been our most effective offensive weapon when he's been fully fit this year. And the sheer fact that there's so many memes about him as a cartoon runner has just made me chuckle this week after that breakout run where he just tries to get even faster. The other one I did consider was Saquon Barkley. Again, dual threat out the backfield, good runner, and probably goes against the grain for Dan to admit that he's a good player when he's fit. But
when he's fit.
When he's fit. I think that's kind of what made me lean to Pacheco rather than Barkley. So far, we've not really seen injuries for Pacheco. He's been quite lucky in that front. I think it's been a concussion when he get need off his own player.
Yeah, well, the other thing to remember with Barkley is that it's a contract season. That's what he's playing for. He's playing for a fair deal, is what he says today. So yeah.
Just to go back to Pacheco for a second there. They should make a Space Jam 3 and make it NFL related. Pacheco would be in there with all the cartoon characters.
I would. Hey, listen, you've got me sold. I'd watch it.
I'd love it.
Fantastic.
Wide receiver. There's really. I actually thought Dan was going to probably use this when he started talking about. I need somebody that can catch. The obvious choice for me is that man up in Minnesota, Justin Jefferson. He's just ridiculous. He really is. I'm not even going to speak anymore on him because he's just frightening. So he'd be my wide receiver. Linebacker, again, thinking somebody that's had a disruptor. He's had a great season again, and he's probably had a great season every year since he was the number 1 pick by the Cleveland Browns. It's got to be Myles Garrett. You just literally stand behind that. He'd get him to take his top off and stand behind him, and nobody would come near you. And then for cornerback, he might have been left out of the Pro Bowl and made an alternate, but he's not getting left out of my flag football team, and that's L'Jarius Sneed. He's just been locking people down. You look at the receivers he's faced this year, Diggs, Adams, these guys, and they've all had their probably, I think, roughly their season lows when they've come up against them. And that's not a coincidence.
For myself, great choices, mate. Great choices. For myself, I think I'd have to go for Tua. Really enjoyed watching the Finns, especially early season Tua. When everyone was doubting him, it was good to see that what was it, Taekwondo or something he was doing in the off season to make sure that when he fell, he was falling correctly. He wasn't going to so that's it. Yeah, it wasn't going to damage himself anymore, and it came out of the traps flying. So definitely a bit of Tua for me there. For my wide receiver, I'm going to go for Jamar Chase. I know what you were saying about JJ. He's been terrific, but I think Chase is some of the catches that he's made, and Chase for me.
His mouth gets him in too much trouble for me. Jamar Chase, he likes to talk before they play the Chiefs, and it never really works out well for him.
Keenan Allen's had another great year. Amari Cooper's doing brilliant as well, but I think I'll go for Chase for me. For my running backs, then, hold on, who we got? Raheem Mostert again. I'm sounding like an absolute Finns like fanboy here. Mostert's done great. Was it 20, 21 touchdowns that he's had this season? Guy's been
20
terrific.
plus anyway. I know he had 20 the other week. I can't mind if he's scored since then, but he's definitely on 20 at least.
For your lineman then, he's just so intimidating, and I would hate to play against him. I hate it whenever it comes up against my team. Max Crosby. We saw in quarterback Patrick Mahomes talking about him and how he always try to get people on side, try to be nice to the guys that is going to try and get him. Max Crosby was not fazed by him at all. So yeah, Max Crosby will take him, and then just finish it off with I'm sticking to the AFC for this lot here. I'm going to stick with Pat Surtain for the Broncos. Really starting to come onto a game. Everybody wrote them off really, really early on in the season, but they seem to be really getting their act together. So aye, Surtain, big fan. I think he's
I thought he'd have went
doing well.
Witherspoon.
So that's what I thought we were going there as well.
He's had a good season.
I hadn't scrolled down that far. He's been brilliant. He's been brilliant as well, especially rookie season for him as well. So he's really lived up to expectations. But that's maybe something that we can go on to just now. Now we're going to have a wee discussion about the playoff picture and all the different permutations that are going to be happening this weekend, the final weekend of the regular season in the NFL. If you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to ask, you can fire them into us. We'll be able to pick them up and get them asked. I can ask the crew guys. So we've got plenty of people listening and watching on X, on Instagram, on YouTube. Get involved with the crew. We're always delighted to get hear from you guys as well. So confirmed in the AFC, there are 4 places that have been cemented, been sealed so far. The Ravens is the number 1. They get the bye. Number 2 is the Dolphins. Number 3 is the Chiefs. Number 5 is the Browns. In the NFC, we've got 5 teams that have cemented their place. Number 1 seed, and again getting their bye for the first round of games, is the 49ers. Second seed there is the Cowboys. Then number 3, we've got the Lions. Number 5, we've got the Eagles. And number 6 is the LA Rams, which I've got to be honest, I'm really, really surprised that Sean McVay's managed to get them in there. They have just drafted so well. Some of the players that they've managed to have breakout seasons with have really just forced them into the playoffs. And the fact that they're not waiting on the final matches to get into there and they've actually done it with a week to spare is incredible credit to Sean McVay. Aye, absolutely brilliant. Dan, what do you make of the teams that have made it so far, that have clinched their playoff spots? Any surprises there? But I mentioned the Rams there. Any other surprises?
To me, no, because if anybody that listened a few weeks ago, I tipped the Rams to get in. So I also tipped another team to get in who are still in the contention, which we'll come to in a minute. But looking at the teams that are in, the Browns probably have surprised people, I think. We've spoken a lot about the Browns, obviously, with Brian being a Browns fan, but probably a lot of people out there will be surprised with the Browns because of obviously what happened with the Bengals this year. But even with taking the Bengals out of the equation, for the Browns to go 11-5, that's a phenomenal season for them. Not just getting to the playoffs, but getting to the playoffs with an 11-5 record. That's a phenomenal season for them. And looking at the record, if it wasn't for the fact that the Ravens were in their division, they could be looking at the number 2 seed. That's crazy chat if you look at that from a Browns point of view. Do you know what I mean? So,
especially with the injuries they've had at quarterback, to find that diamond in Joe Flacco. Don't know if anyone's ever heard of this guy before.
I know.
Get him into the team. That's terrific.
Nick Chubb getting out early was obviously a bit of a blow for him as well, but Jerome Ford's just stepped in. We can't say he's done as good as Chubb would have done, but he's done a phenomenal job for him this season, and it's kept it going. And as you mentioned, Keith, about the fantasy and the flag bit there, Amari Cooper just stepped up, especially the last few weeks. I mean, what was it, 260 odd yards the other week or something like that? Something stupid.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. I played him in fantasy that week, so I
think looking at the teams that are in, people probably look at that now and think the Browns and the Rams are probably the 2 surprises in terms of who is in there at the moment. To answer your original question.
What about yourself, Studs? Any surprises there? the Lions last year, they helped the Seahawks out. I know it went down to the last game of the season. They beat the
Packers.
the Packers to help squeeze the Seahawks into the playoffs. We didn't really do much. It was a flux season for us. But they're in, and the Seahawks are still languishing, but we're relying on other people now, and we'll get to that in a wee
we'll
bit.
get to that in a minute, and who you're relying on and who against again. But I think
Yeah.
the Lions were kind of everybody's sort of pre-season darling. I think everybody expected them to take the North is in the NFC. So I think
Yeah.
for that perspective, it's no surprise they're in there. I think probably their record maybe is a slight surprise, how well they have done. But I'm with Dan. I think you're looking at the Browns and the Rams are really the obvious ones. I think the Dolphins being in there as I don't think it's a shock to make the playoffs. I think again the fact that they've led the AFC East for so long, I think everybody thought it's still Buffalo's time. The Dolphins will finish second and they'll get in as a wild card. Was probably the way most folk were looking at it. So, albeit that could still be the way it goes at the weekend, which again we'll probably cover soon as well. But I think the Dolphins, having led the AFC East for me pretty much all year, has been a bit of a surprise.
What do you mean, Studs? You mean that the Jets were only going to win the AFC East? Does that know what the chat was all off season? Does that know?
Depends on who you were speaking to, I think. But I think a lot of people maybe thought the AFC East could be like the AFC North and have three contenders in there this year. But nah, as I say, that for me, I think the obvious ones are the Browns and the Rams. Kind of step them up.
It could be the curse of Hard Knocks with the Dolphins. They've not been really in loads of form. They're starting to get injuries just now. I think Mostert's going to miss out this weekend, but again, they've clinched their place, so they can afford to do that. But it could be that Hard Knocks curse that's battered the Jets at the very start of the season, then the mid-season. Now the Finns actually feeling that a wee bit there. So I think most of those teams that you would expect to be in the postseason anyway. I think that's fair enough. Let's have a wee look then at the teams that are in the hunt then. For the AFC, you've got for the three available places just now in pole position for them is the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Buffalo Bills, and the Indianapolis Colts. For the NFC. Two more positions available, and it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers, who have the pole positions. They're kind of in the lead. It's within their grasp, those spots there. Currently, the Packers, I'm really, really surprised at the Packers. Again, I think we all thought that this was going to be just a rebuild season, just to let Love really find his feet, but he has found his feet and he's playing well. And that young team, I think they're the youngest squad in the NFL, are really starting to show a wee bit of maturity there, and they're really, really like heading into the end of the season and possibly the off season at the right time with a good bit of form. 8-8 they are. What about yourself, Dan? What we thinking then? So Jags, Bills, Colts, Bucks, and Packers. Let's talk about the Jags then first, because they don't really seem to be wanting to make it to the postseason. They're really just collapsing in themselves, and T-Laws get injured. Players just aren't really stepping up in the way that we'd hoped that this season would do for them.
Yeah, but I think the Jags obviously they got off to a decent start, and everybody thought they've led the division for most of the season. I actually think they might miss out.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just looking at the clinching scenarios now for them.
So they play the Tennessee Titans this weekend.
Yeah. So I predicted the Colts and the Texans both to get in, but now they're both playing each other and they can't both get in. So that kind of screws that one up. So if the Jags win, they win the division. If they tie, they need Pittsburgh to lose or tie. So so if Jacksonville loses, I think they're out because either the Texans or the Colts will get in because they play each other. So Titans have been a bit hot and cold this season. So I don't know what Titans are going to turn up, but I think the Jags miss out. I think they've just hit a slide at the wrong time of the season. I'm going to say Jags miss out. I think getting in, I think obviously the winner of the Texans or the Colts is going to be the team that replaces them. I hope it's the Texans. I've loved watching the Texans this season, what they've done. CJ Stroud obviously back. I just realised I was reading something earlier on. This game on Saturday, they're playing late UK time on Saturday night. They're playing the Sunday morning football effectively. It's his first primetime TV game for CJ Stroud this season. He's not been on primetime TV this year.
Wow.
I've loved watching them this season. So I'm hoping I want the Jags to lose, Texans to win. The Texans to get into the playoffs would be what I would like to see. From that, Bills, I think.
Sticking with the Jags instead.
Yeah.
And you can see from them that they could maybe get this win that they need.
I think the positive from their perspective is the fact that Trevor Lawrence is trending in the right direction, and they've activated the window for Christian Kirk to come off the IR.
Yeah.
They look a better team when Christian Kirk's on the field. Everybody thought it was going to be Calvin Ridley that was going to step up, but Christian Kirk's certainly been the wide receiver one for them, and when he's missing, they just don't look like the same team effectively. So I think that's kind of where they're having to lead on. I think Dan's point about what Tennessee's going to turn up is going to be interesting. I know I seen Mike Vrabel's interview earlier on in the week where he was asked about something along the lines of does he think his players will take it easy, or what's his motivation for this week, something along those lines, and he turned around and told the reporters that, well, it sucks to lose, so he's definitely got it to win, to be honest. So the Titans just haven't really looked great this year. For me, Derrick Henry looks to have slowed down. I've made that point kind of clear in our chat, in our WhatsApp groups, that I don't think Derrick Henry, on the eye test certainly, hasn't looked like the same punishing running back that we've seen. Tajee Spears has actually looked like a better option than him, to be honest. So I think the Jags are just going to have too much for the Titans. I think the Jags are going to stay in. I'm with Dan as well. I would also like to see the Texans beat the Colts. Nothing against Gardner Minshew, but I just think CJ Stroud is a more exciting prospect in the playoffs than Gardner Minshew-led Indianapolis Colts. The one I'm looking forward to seeing, and again, I know we spoke about this earlier today, is I'm actually cheering the Bills. For a change, I want to see the Bills beat the Dolphins, just so as we can see Tyreek back at Arrowhead, because he was bitching and moaning about that earlier in the season. The fact that the Chiefs put them in Germany so as they didn't need to play at Arrowhead, well, they wouldn't have a choice in that scenario. So it would be good to see him back there and watch L'Jarius Sneed absolutely lock him down again.
That'd be pretty good. But he said a bit of an eventful week as well. His house went up in flames.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Missed training.
I seen that, and he'd had a boot on as well, which seems to be. I think that is just protocol. Somebody had said about the Miami Dolphins. If you ever get a wee injury, they'll just put the boot on just to make sure that you don't aggravate it further. So it doesn't mean that he's going to be struggling, or maybe not make the game this weekend, or make the games that are ahead invitational, as you mentioned.
He was expected to practice in full, but he got a phone call to say about his house being on fire, so he left the facility, needless to say, because I think some of his family members were still in the house when the fire had started, so he had to leave.
God almighty. I hope they do like registers and head counts for all the babies that he's got like kicking about. And
well, that was the joke I'd made earlier on. Was it set by one of his alleged baby mamas, or was it set by his wife when she found out about the baby mamas?
I know. That's what, again, Hard Knocks. He was meant to have settled down this year as well.
His new wife, I should say.
His current wife.
So, Jags. Who we got? Jags, Bills, Colts. Then in the pole position, Bills. Now let's talk about this Bills window, because we keep shutting it, and every time we shut it, they keep prying their fingers underneath and wedging it open that wee bit more. are they coming hot at the right time? What's it? They're 4-0 since it was leaked about the Al Qaeda motivational speech they gave it. What a team the guys are, eh? Just keep going relentless. 4-0 though, that's what you need, especially at this time of year, and this is what, getting hot at the right time. What do you think, Danny? The Bills, are they going to make a mug of us?
Yes and no. I still believe the Super Bowl window is closed. I think that the chance of winning the Super Bowl, I think, is still gone. They are going to make the playoffs, obviously. You say they've hit form at the right time. I think I'm going to go with studs on this one. I think the Bills will beat the Dolphins. I have a stat with the stat I was reading earlier on. Where did it go? Sorry, give us a second. The Bills have won 10 of the last 11 games against the Dolphins. So, and obviously they spanked them earlier in the season when the Dolphins were flying and the Bills were not doing as well as they could do. They beat 48-20.
The Dolphins they were full strength at that point as well.
The Dolphins were flying. The Dolphins were playing at their best and they were battling teams left, right, and centre. Was that not was that the week after?
I think it was the week after their 70-20 game. The Broncos.
So, and then the Bills just kind of spanked them a bit. Do you know what I mean? So, the Bills are hitting form at 100% the right time. Going into the playoffs, this is exactly when you want to be hitting form. I think the Bills win. I think Studs gets his wish and he gets Tyreek at Arrowhead.
See, when you say the Bills hitting form, the only out of the 4 games they've won, the only one I think they've looked good in is the one against the Cowboys.
Yeah,
I don't think the Bills have looked good.
You've got to just beat who's in front of you, though. That's the thing, isn't it? And it's down.
For me, I felt they were lucky to beat us again. And I know I've said that a couple of times. It was the same with the Eagles for me. The Eagles were lucky to beat us as well.
Everybody's lucky to beat the Chiefs.
The Lions.
The Lions were lucky to beat us as well. The only one that wasn't lucky was the Broncos, right? The Broncos won. They absolutely towed us. We were dog shit that day.
What about the Browns?
We've not played the
They
Browns
were
this
lucky.
year.
We'll just say they were lucky.
I'm thinking back. I'm like, last time we played them, it was the helmet to helmet that Brian is adamant. But no, I don't think the Bills have looked great, to be honest. Other than don't get me wrong. Again, take nothing away. That performance against the Cowboys, they were superb. There's nothing you could do about that. What I find interesting, and again, I think it'll be interesting in the next couple of weeks, is if Stephon Diggs stays quiet. Because he has, for the last 8 weeks, I've actually got his stats here. So his receiving yards over. So from the Broncos game, you've got receiving yards 34 yards, 27 yards, 74 yards against the Eagles. Then he went and then it was 24 yards against us, 48 against the Cowboys, 29 against the Chargers, and 26 against the Patriots. Now, his targets in the last few weeks have come down from the one against us. He got 11 targets against us. He's then went 5-8-7. So he's not getting utilised in the offence as much as what he was. And for somebody like Stephon Diggs, who literally throws his toys at the pram at the slightest wee thing, he's not going to accept that. He's not going to accept that James Cook's now the focal point of this offence. And again, it's coincided with the change in offensive coordinator. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamic. Is Diggs going to be a good team player and sit there quiet and accept this role where he's not going to be the focal point? Or is he going to start throwing the toys at the pram and maybe be a bit of poison in the changing room?
See, I just see on Stephon Diggs' point, I've just pulled up his stats here. He's just under 1,100 yards for the season. He's actually averaging, he's 100 catches, so he's averaging 11 yards a catch. He's not getting used as much as we'd expect, but I've been the same as you. I've been like, he's basically not done anything, but over 1,000 yards isn't too bad for not being used.
His first 6 or 7 games is what really inflates it, though, because you look at his first 6 or 7 games in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First 6 games, 5 of them were over 100 yards.
That's half his total in the first 5 games.
100%.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you. He's just been completely underutilised. Well, has he been underutilised, or the Bills just moved away from a throwing game? You know what I mean?
I think that is that.
Well, they've got Josh Allen that they can. They've got Josh Allen that they can rely on as well, making things happen. But they also had players like Gabe Davis, who's got 746 yards for 45 receptions this year. He's really came out. People, everybody loves him, but he really has contributed a fair bit this year. Plus, they've been focusing on. They've got Dalton Kincaid that's really starting to step up a wee bit there as well. A couple of their running backs too. So it's not really just been Diggs. I think he would like it to be like the Vikings, but it's just Justin Jefferson. Really, he's the main focal point. But there's so many other weapons in that Bills team, and they're a hard to beat team. For all they've had so many defensive injuries this season, they're still a tough team to battle that you have to really, really work hard if you're going to get something. James Cook really came onto a game.
That's what Diggs had in Minnesota, is he was the focal point. He was the only wide receiver, and he was moaning about it, and that's why he got traded to the Bills. If I'm the Bills and they start moaning, I look to trade him to somewhere like Carolina. Let him see how he goes with Bryce Young throwing him. And again, no disrespect to Bryce Young, but we've not really seen anything from him spectacular yet, as opposed to CJ Stroud, who's looked like a superstar. So if he is going to bump his gums about it, then call his bluff.
Send him to the Giants.
I was going to say, who is their wide receiving course? Saquon Barkley,
Darren
Waller.
Darren Waller, right, that's it.
Very good, very good. What about then flipping over to the NFC? Bucks and Packers. Baker are big fans of Baker and the crew, of course. I think we're just delighted to see him happy and settled. He's had such an up and down career. I think it was Brian had pointed out that he has a hot season and a cold season. So this is his hot season. He's really made the Bucks forget about moving on from Tom Brady, which was a massive hole to fill. And he's got that wee bit of arrogance about him that he can go there. Maybe it's naivety, but he's went and he's performed. And the fact that they're so close, they've got a 63% chance of getting actually into the playoffs according to Next Gen Stats. That's terrific, and not just on him, but he's got a good core of players and a good defense. But the Bucks were the team that many were expecting to be an absolute tire fire at the start of the season. I think quite a few of the crew here, we had said so as well. For them to be 8-8 and first in the NFC South, not the strongest divisions, of course, but it's testament to Baker that they've managed to just push themselves ahead of the rest of the crap there.
Yeah.
It's interesting the fact that 3 teams can still win that division, and you're getting into week. I suppose the AFC South's the same essentially as well. In the fact you've got 3 teams could win that division, must be something about the Souths. But it's again, you're looking at this year with the Bucks, and the star of the show for me has been Mike Evans again. Rashad White's looked good in the receiving game as well, but again, you're talking about Mike Evans, another 1,000-yard season. 13 touchdowns so far this year. Out of contract as well this season, so I believe there's a flight leaving for Tampa Bay to Kansas City for him if he wants to replace MVS. I'll fly over to Kansas and I'll drive MVS down to Tampa myself to swap him. But
I was going to ask if you were going to grease his palm with something, but I think they've done enough of that in AC this season.
You're wanting a bit of stick him on his gloves or something like that rather than greasing them any further. But Mike Evans Baker's obviously been great. Mike Evans needs somebody to throw the ball to him as well. But I think the sheer fact he's got that reliable target in Evans has been superb for Baker.
Yeah, Baker should hit 4,000 yards this weekend.
Wow.
He needs 96 yards or something, like 90 odd yards to break 4,000 yards this season. I mean, I think you go back to you said, Keith, about replacing Tom Brady. I think that it sounds like that actually helped him. I think it took the pressure off him, because it's like nobody can replace Tom Brady. Blah blah blah. I think, and that's exactly what's happening. It's took the pressure off him, and he's basically just played his game, and it's worked.
He's also had something to prove as well, which I think has really helped him, because he was a joke figure last season, and I think even just getting those wee bumps where he went to the Rams learned I don't think he learned the playbook, but he did enough so that when he came in and he did that drive to win the game for them in his first game, he didn't really, he wasn't hanging about there. But I think to see those wee bits of quality, to see that he had still had that, which people had kind of forgot about because of just how badly he'd done when he was with the Browns and when he'd moved on. It's just, I think he needed those wee boosted confidence and to go to somewhere that people weren't expecting that a team to do well, like the Bucks, and then because they've always had a good defense, and that was always the thing about them, that somewhere that they could build up. You've got Evans that he's always able to rely on. He needed somewhere like that, just a happy home, and we're delighted for him. And listen, I'm rooting for the Bucks to get in there. They are of course playing the Carolina Panthers for week 18. That's a tough game for them.
Yeah,
Wonder how much tickets are going for that one.
The Bucks are in. The Bucks are definitely. I mean, I think at the start of the season we all said that both, like you mentioned, studs, both South divisions were looked like dumpster fires. We just couldn't. You could have picked straws for who was going to win those both divisions, and it's turned out we come to the last game of the season, we still don't know who's winning them, which is pretty much par for the course. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at it. Mayfield, he's on track for his best season of his career. He'll break 4,000 yards. He's on 28 touchdowns. Chance of getting 30 touchdowns up. He's 28 is already the highest he's ever had in a season. Highest percentage completions as well. Everything this season is his best season of his career. And what a season to kind of pick to play like this.
I think it's no surprise that he's behind a strong, solid O-line as well. Obviously, Brady built that O-line to keep him upright. He probably had a good say in who was coming in the likes of Tristan Wirfs and things like that. So I think the fact that Baker's getting allowed that time, and again, don't get me wrong, the Browns' offensive line wasn't a bad one, and I think you've seen what he could do in Cleveland when he did when he wasn't injured or he was given that time, and then they sold their soul for he who shall not be named. So Baker had to find somewhere else to go. But I think you see the fact that he's getting allowed time to pick his passes, scan the field, and when you give him that protection, he's actually proven that he's a more than serviceable quarterback. He's doing really well, and fair play to Baker.
Just going back to the Bucks receivers for a quick second, Keith. Sorry, I remember we done a pod earlier in the season. I can't remember what week it was we done, and I made a pull at a start to surprise everybody that Chris Godwin had more targets than Mike Evans at that point in the season. And I remember I talked about it at the time. Since then, they're basically level 76 and 77 receptions each, right? Mike Evans is on 1, 2, 3, 3 on 76 receptions. Chris Godwin's on 973. So Godwin, I don't know what's happened with him this season. He just doesn't seem to be around. 973 yards doesn't do much. Sounds a bit daft, but from what you've seen from them as a pair in the past, it seems like Evans has stepped up again this year to get the Bucks, like you said.
So looking at it, Bucks winning their in, but let's have a wee look now at the teams that are just on the very outside, the edge, on the bubble, it's called. And they're on the outside, just looking in, envious at the teams that are in a better position of them. In the AFC, you've got the Texans, who I would say we're rooting for. The story with DeMeco Ryans going back to his old team and really transforming them from what has been an absolute dumpster fire for the past 5 years, even longer.
Coach of the year.
It's been absolutely terrific. It's great to see. So Texans, can see a wee bit of cheering for them this weekend. You've got the Steelers as well. We've got a chance, a low probability there. If they win, they've got a 63% of getting in. And they're playing the Baltimore Ravens, who of course have clinched the title and will be resting players this weekend. For the NFC, my own Seattle Seahawks, really another, it's in the hands of other teams for the NFC West for us, which is, I've got to say, I'm quite disappointed in. Our record is 8-8. This is year 2 with quite a lot of good young players making the most of the rush trade. I think we should have been building on what we did last year and actually be a wee bit more comfortable than what we are going into the last week again. But it's out of our hands. We are playing the Cards this weekend, so again, not an easy game. They're playing so well. James Conner's just been terrific for them. So, tricky one. You also have the Saints, Vikings, and the Falcons. So, the NFC South Really is like dominating what's going to happen this weekend. Who's going to any one of those teams really could go through. It's amazing to see. Where will we start then? Texans we've mentioned a wee bit already. Steelers, wow, 9-7,
Yeah.
another winning season there. That's
Yeah.
to be commended. Pretty impressive there. What do you think of that one, Dan?
Mike Tomlin, that's one, a hot take I put at the start of the season that's come back and bite me in the arse, to be fair. I predicted with the way the Steelers were looking at Mike Tomlin would get his first losing season. It's obviously not happened, but
No.
for stages of the season it looked like it was a possibility, but they've seemed to have just picked up a couple of key wins at key times. Looking at the Steelers, and this comes back to the Jags. That's what impacts on the Steelers here. The Jags lose and the Steelers win, the Steelers are in. That is literally their way into the playoffs. I'll pull it back up again. Or if Houston and Indy tie, or because there's so many fucking weird permutations, but basically what the Steelers really need is for them to win and either Buffalo to lose or Jacksonville to lose, and that gets them in.
Yeah, I see they've got 7 different
ones, but
they've got 7 different permutations that could happen for the Steelers to get in, but it's really and it's not in their hands.
no.
Do you think they've focused a wee bit too much on this winning record over the years? It's all very good. I think, what is it, 20 years? I think the record's 21. Would you rather they had a couple of seasons where they really went for it and maybe get absolutely battered and ended up with better draft picks so that they can make that push?
You need that winning record to get into the playoffs, so it's not really a case of making a deal of the winning record. You need to have it, but the problem they've got is they don't have the talent to push further on where they are. I mean, quarterback, wide receiver, obviously they've kind of picked up a wee bit. The running backs has probably been their best offensive players this year, but they just don't have the weapons to push on to that next level where we've seen the Steelers in the past. I think the Steelers, with the way their season's set up in terms of players, they'll be delighted if they get into the playoffs. I think that'll be a huge achievement for the Steelers this year, considering where they're at in terms of rebuilding and stuff like that. I think it's if they get in, I think they'll deserve it because obviously they'll get there and pick up the wins. But I don't think they're anywhere near the level of being able to step up and go higher than that yet.
If they do make it in, Studs, do you think they should all be wearing big T-shirts that say "Thank you, Matt Canada," for being such an inspirational figure for them? Because since he's left, they've really picked up. I think they've got some of their highest scoring wins that they've had in a long time. They really have needed just this wee jolt, and it seems that something that's happened. That record was looking a wee bit shaky. Dan was getting a wee bit itching for it to fall through for them, but again, they pulled it off.
I think it'd be photos of the kicker, Chris Boswell, in his quote saying it's not because of you on the T-shirts rather than anything else as he was walking in the changing room. But no, see, for me, I've got 2 words about the Steelers and in the playoffs, and that's Mason Rudolph. Do you really want to see Mason Rudolph in the playoffs? Now, if you're that number 2 seed, the answer is of course. But anybody else is absolutely not. I'm sorry. Mason Rudolph in the playoffs does not excite me in the slightest. So don't get me wrong, Dan did. My ears pricked up a wee bit there when he said if Buffalo lose and the Steelers win, then the Steelers get in. Again, I wouldn't be sad to see Buffalo out of the playoffs because and probably down to the injuries that they've had in defence more than anything else.
Yep.
I think Buffalo's going to go one and done in the playoffs anyway. So for that perspective, but I really don't want to see Mason Rudolph in the playoffs in terms of the Steelers. Yeah, great. Mike Tomlin's had another winning season. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, 2 very, very good tandem of running backs that they've got there, and they do seem to complement each other so well. Warren seems to be more elusive. Najee Harris is more like the hammer for that perspective. But when you've got people like Pickens who isn't going to block for his running back, but he's quite happy to receive the ball, those kind of things, that's not something I want to see in the playoffs. I want to see teams that want to be there, teams like your Texans, who you can tell are playing for their coach. They've bought into his philosophy. They are all working for each other. They do have a very much a next man up mentality. You've seen Noah Brown step up when Tank Dales went down. You've seen Devin Singletary come alive in the second half of the season when Damien Pierce has been absolute dog meat in their defence. Will Anderson's just been a revolution as well. So the Cardinals are going to be kicking themselves at that one probably for years to come. The fact that they traded out that pick. So I'd rather see teams that are going to work hard for their coaching, work hard for their teammates be there than what I've seen for certain Steelers players this year. And then obviously the QB situation again. Do you want to see CJ Stroud? Do you want to see Mason Rudolph? There's an obvious answer there.
Yeah.
To be fair to Tomlin, he stood up for Pickens. After that, those images of him not blocking, and what was it he'd mentioned? He didn't want a Tank Dell type injury.
Didn't want to get injured.
The following week, he get that 40 billion yard touchdown.
150 yard game, couple of touchdowns and stuff. I mean, listen, that's great. The best response I've heard about the question on that block came from Jalen Warren himself when he was asked if what he thought about George Pickens not blocking for him, and Warren just quite simply said, well, I would have blocked for him. Now, that's the teammate you want.
Yeah.
You need to forget these guys, and I get injuries will happen at any time, but it was just ugly.
It's good to see the spirit of Chase Claypool still lives on in the Steelers there.
Looks like traded the wrong guy out. Here's a scenario for you guys, right? The Steelers are getting hammered, right? The Jaguars are getting hammered. The Colts and the Texans are tied. Got a 2-minute warning. If the games stay how they are, Colts and the Texans go into the playoffs.
So if they
finish a tie, the Jags and Steelers lose, both the Colts and the Texans go in. Wow. They just do a Denmark, Sweden and just not do anything for 2 minutes.
Rush it up. Just to keep punting for 2 minutes.
You have it. No, you have it. No, you have it. No, you have it. No, you have it.
Who was it that happened? Raiders Chargers, where they were tying in overtime in the last game of the season. I think, was it last year or the year before? And they were both getting into the playoffs, and Brandon Staley tried to get a touchdown. So the Raiders come back out and went, oh, is that right? And then Derek Carr went and scored, set up a field goal or scored a touchdown. The Raiders were quite happy to let it go and go, well, we've both qualified. Let's just keep going back and forth and not getting anywhere. But as soon as Brandon Staley tried to be a dick about it, the Raiders went, okay.
I would love that. I would love to see the Colts and the Texans both in the playoffs. I think the two what you mentioned, that is two teams that are playing for their head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see the two of them in the playoffs. I can't see it happening. It's just, that's a ridiculous scenario to see happening. But it is NFL and stupid things have happened before, so you never know. But yeah,
that's the only reason I bring it up is the fact that Raiders and Chargers one, it might have been 2 seasons ago, was happening, and the two of them were tying in overtime, and it was going to finish a tie, by all accounts, because nobody was getting the ball moving in offense, and I think they went for it in 4th down or something like that, and that just set the Raiders off. So, but on the AFC side, Keith, you realise that the Packers are actually, the Seahawks are looking for the Packers to lose again to set yous in. So they're looking at the Bears doing them a favour rather than the Lions this time.
Well, see, that's the thing that I'm thinking. With Aaron Rodgers being away now, is this the time for Fields to claim Lambeau for himself? Is he going to stay at Soldier Field next season? I've seen it was the Commanders have opened discussions with the Bears about the number 1 pick that they have through the Panthers.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I can see a wee upset there. I can see the Bears going there. Nothing to lose.
I mentioned earlier on, the Packers were the left field pick that I had a few weeks ago. Packers were nowhere near the playoff. Well, they were nowhere near. They were on the bubble somewhere, and I just told them I thought I think the Packers will make it, and I still think they'll make it. And I think I don't think the Packers will let it slide at this point. I think they'll just
Now it's in their control, and I'm pretty sure it is at Lambeau, isn't it? Yeah. So it is. I think.
Bears at Packers. I'm looking at.
I think the Packers win. And again, they're another team that have kind of just started picking up wins at the right point of the season. Jordan Love's started coming out a bit of form. He's probably showing the quarterback everybody thought the Packers were getting. He's kind of starting to show up. But you said, Keith, earlier on the show, it's the weapons he's got around about him, the youth that they've got. That is a team that is, if Jordan Love can continually start to play like that, and that becomes his norm, they've got a team that is really building. The only potential issue they've maybe got is at running back, where they're going to have to pick up their next era running back somewhere. But in terms of out wide, in terms of quarterback, they're set for the next few years.
It's interesting the fact that they've done all this without probably their two best weapons in Aaron Jones and Christian Watson. Mm-hmm. It's the likes Reed that stepped up, who just seems to score a touchdown every week.
Wicks,
and who was it? Bo Melton or something like that popped up last week with a touchdown for them. It's ridiculous. As Dan says, the wide receiving core they've got is frightening. Everybody was talking about Watson at the start of the season. Reed was probably a very, very deep sleeper, and even the most confident of fantasy players' leagues. So these guys stepping up week after week has just been it's been good to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
And their tight ends as well. They picked up Luke Musgrave in the draft.
Who also got injured during the season, so it's been another rookie that stepped up, and
Tucker Kraft, I think, is done.
Yeah, Kraft. He had a good game last week. Every time I've seen him get the ball getting caught by a tight end, it was him last week. He had a great game last week.
Just getting hot at the right time. So I think Jordan Love should be able to just do enough. I think that'll be one of the most exciting games of the week to watch and to see. Lambeau's always going to be jumping, but the weather seemed to be a wee bit snowy last week at the Bills game. I wonder if it'll be the same over in Wisconsin, is it?
Yes. Just on a mention on Lambeau Field, did we all see the video of, I cannot remember who it was now, try to do the Lambeau leap the other week? Who was it? Did we see it? And get rejected by the fans? Opposition player trying to do the Lambeau leap, and then the fans just pushed him. He just jumped in. I can't remember who it is. I need to find it. But
I seen that.
Somebody's trying to do the Lambeau leap, and the fans it was like rejected. It was like basketball was like rejected. Just smashed them back at the stand.
Denied. Right. Okay. Let's go for it. Let's give the crew kiss of death then. Your predictions, gentlemen. So let's go for the AFC first of all. There are 3 places up for grabs. We have the AFC South with the Jags, Colts, and Texans in contention there. Who's going to get that playoff spot?
I will say Texans.
Texans who take on the Colts. Oh,
Texans win that.
Extra spice there, isn't it?
Yeah, winner takes that. Bills, I think Bills are a stick on. And
Texans on the road as well. Have to go to Indianapolis for that game, which will be tasty.
I think the Jags will get in because
I think they'll
even
win.
if they lose, I can't see the Steelers winning. Sorry?
I think they'll win. I think they'll beat the Titans this weekend.
But even if they don't win, I don't think the Steelers beat the Ravens even without Lamar Jackson. I think the Steelers would have to win if the Jags lost. I just kind of see it. Even with the Ravens resting players, I think it would be too much for the Steelers. So I think the way it is, Jaguars, Bills, Texans, I'm going.
For me, sorry, let me go, Keith.
No, just checking. Are you in agreement there?
If an agreement in terms of they're the 3 teams I think will make it in. I think the Bills will move into second. I think the Dolphins will slip into the wild card for that perspective. So you're going to see what would that be then? That'd be Browns at Jags, Texans at Bills, which I think will be a great game. Seeing CJ Stroud against Josh Allen, I think would make for a great matchup. And then obviously you've got the Dolphins at Chiefs. at Arrowhead. So that's kind of what I want to see, and that's what I think will happen.
That's all you want, isn't it? You want to see Tyreek come home.
I want to see Tyreek back at Arrowhead just to shut him up.
You think his home was looking bad when he went back the other day. Wait till you see even return then to Arrowhead. Fantastic. Right, what about the NFC then? So Bucks for they're in first position for the NFC South. You also have the Saints and the Falcons have a chance of making it in there. I've not really mentioned the Vikes of the Falcons or the Saints when we were looking over the teams in the bubble there, but
I think the Vikes have got a really low percentage chance of getting in. I was looking today.
4%.
Aye.
Even if they win, it's 11%.
It's 11% if they win, yep. Falcons, if they win, it's 36%. Saints, 51% if they win. Seahawks, if they win, 44%. Each of those teams have to win. So Saints are playing the Falcons, and do you remember who's at home for that one?
Saints. Falcons at Saints.
Falcons are at the Saints. Ooh, what a party in New Orleans that would be.
This is quite interesting because, and I can't see it happening, if the Bucks lose, they're out. Because either the Saints or the Falcons win, they win the division. I mean, I know it's Carolina the Bucks are playing, but stranger things have happened. We've seen the Panthers doing things when they shouldn't be doing. I can't see. I think the Bucks do win, but that is a very fine margin. If the Bucks know they don't win, they are out. It's not a case of there's other clinching scenarios where if they lose, they can still get in. Yeah. If the Bucks lose, they are out.
Yeah.
Lovie Smith's not involved with the Panthers at all. He's not going to just totally upset things again, is he?
I think he must be the Cardinals after them picking up that win against the Eagles last week.
I don't think the Panthers can get out of the number one pick that they'll give to the Bears.
Nah, it's secure now. Two-game lead. I think it sticks as it is, Keith. I think Bucks and Packers get in, but it's the NFL and stranger things have happened in the last game of the season. Would I be surprised to see the Saints and the Falcons win and get in? I wouldn't be surprised. I just can't see it happening.
Yeah,
I think the most likely scenario outside of it being the Bucks and Packers is probably Seahawks and Saints. I think that's your most likely other scenario. But again, the Bears could want to. They obviously will want to go to Lambeau and cause an upset. I just don't think the Packers are going to let it happen 2 years in a row. Destiny in their own hands type thing. So for me, I think the Bucks, Baker's looked too good this year for me to go and mess it up now. So he's been unlucky with some of his results. I think he'll go to the Panthers and take care of business. And I think Jordan Love is he's looked great as well for the Packers. So I think he'll finish the job off and take his first steps into the playoffs.
Just a quick point.
Rodgers' shadow.
Another quick point on the NFC is that the Rams can still drop to 7, and Sean McVay still decided that he's resting Stafford this week.
Yeah, he's resting players against the 49ers.
He's also going to rest Puka Nacua after he achieves the rookie record. I think he has to get 4 more receptions. Is it 26 yards or something like that?
4 catches and 26 yards. It's both of them to make both records. But if you're looking at the Rams, so if the Rams drop, they play the Cowboys in Dallas. At the moment, if they don't drop, they play the Lions. Is that right? Wait a second. Cowboys would play 7.
I think we'll get to all the once it's solidified. Then we'll get a wee podcast looking at all the playoff teams and who's going where. I'm really looking forward to that. Right. The only thing I'm worried about is the Bucks are having to travel to Charlotte to play the Panthers, and biggest danger there is that they're going to get a wee Jack Daniels and Coke in the eye or something like that for the Panthers owner. Aye, Baker's going to lead the boys to victory there. Right, so we're going for the Bucks and the Packers, just as it is just now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just on that, I don't know if you've just seen the break. Have you seen the breaking news that's just popped up about Dalvin Cook?
Where's he going?
He's a free agent, of course.
Free agent, yep. This week, agreeing a deal with the Jets to get released. He is expected to sign with the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh.
I think I called that earlier on in the week. I think I says or not.
Somebody mentioned about the Ravens being injured at running back.
Aye.
So
they've
who are
already
the
lost
injuries?
Mitchell,
Keaton Mitchell, he was their young one that was coming through. So they've just got Gus Edwards and Justice Hill.
What a week he had last week, Justice Hill. He was everywhere last week.
Aye. And Gus Edwards just seems to vulture 2 and 3 yard touchdowns for him. Justice Hill's been doing the heavy lifting, and Edwards has popped him into the end zone.
There we go. Right, just to confirm it, then we're going to go for the Bucks and the Packers to get in, Jags, Bills, and Texans for the AFC.
Yep, I think we've agreed the order will change as well, Keith. I don't know if you're going to do a graph over, but the Bills are going to 2. I think we agree the Bills are going to 2.
Amazing. Right. Let's have
just before I get slaughtered on that one, it was Stu and Brian that actually called for the Ravens. It wasn't me. I can't mind who I said now. Just because they will dig me up for it and says it was me that says it.
Right, let's have a wee look at some of the other games that we've got going on then. You mentioned the Ravens, so they are at home to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, it's all to play for the Steelers, but again, in the hands of other teams there. Browns already through, taking on the Bengals, who are out. Not really to say there. They're not really that much. It's really
Jeff Driscoll
as well.
What was that, Dan?
I says the Browns are starting Jeff Driscoll. We only picked him up last week and he's starting already.
That's not bad. How much would you get for that? Just jump in for the one game. Must be getting a fair whack.
Was there no something about him, how much he's picked up as a backup? It was him or Blau. I can't remember if it was Driscoll or Blau, but one of the two of them has picked up a ridiculous amount of money for being a career backup. I think it's in the 20 to 30 million range. It's just aye.
There was that. I remember reading this stat, and it was a ridiculous amount of money. Let me just see if I can find it. I'll come back to me.
I've not got the height. I've not got the height. Neither is my darling wife. We've not got the height. So the boys aren't going to be quarterbacks. They've got great arms on them, great throws. I'm training them up as long snappers, or we have to work on their kicking. And I think that could be a nice wee nest egg just to lay off of. Get a wee 5%.
Kyler Murray and Bryce Young aren't exactly the tallest, let's be honest.
I've got it. I've got the start. Chase Daniels. He has made 5 starts in his NFL career, and he has made over $40 million.
Wow!
There we go. I knew it was one of the guys that had been at like a career backup.
Yeah,
still,
$40 million.
You've got to pay some people with that. That would be going.
Good agent. That's what that is.
Taxed his agent, the thing with that was making a fair whack out of.
He knows how to hold that clipboard. That's what it is. He knows how to hold that clipboard properly. That's what pays the big bucks.
Man, getting paid that much for a really crap view of the game as well. That's pretty special, right? Who else we got? Other teams have got New York Jets are taking on the New England Patriots. Always a tasty game, that one. A couple of crew members were at that one last year. And it was absolutely fair until
the high school game.
Punt return.
The punt return in the last 30 seconds or something.
To walk off one type thing. Again, I think the Patriots are just looking to fast forward. I think the biggest disappointment they've had this week is hearing that Mike Vrabel's got another year of his contract still to go. Another kicking the nuts for those guys. Who else we got? Broncos travelling to Vegas. Again, just not much to play for there, but we've got pride there. Really, it's just that's a divisional game. Am I right?
They're all divisional games this week. Final week's always divisional games. They've done it. In recent years. They made them all divisional games, so it's but I get Eagles at New York could be interesting, but again, I think I'd expect the Eagles to probably rest their players, especially with Hurts having niggles all season. But then you could see Marcus Mariota for the first time since he abandoned the Falcons to be with his wife at the birth of their child, and basically get binned off the Falcons for it. So
I read a bit that Nick Sirianni's already accepted the Cowboys will get number 2 seed and he's probably going to rest players.
oh, actually,
But
that's
it
right.
was-
That could still flip flop.
Yeah.
And the Giants did beat them earlier on in the season as well, though, didn't they?
2 weeks ago,
No,
no.
the Jets beat them.
Or was it Jets? For
I
the
only
first
played the
time, that's
Giants
right.
2 weeks ago. It was close.
Right.
It was closer than it should have been. But Eagles
It
won
was. Right, okay. We got Chiefs versus Chargers. Again, just really
I expect
protecting.
Travis Kelce will play to try and keep his streaky 1,000 yards up, but as soon as he hits that, he's getting pulled off the field, I would expect.
Well,
I think
we'll
they've only
see
really
what's
got
afternoon
about
then, Vicky.
3 games that actually mean anything this week. 4 at a push.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Looking at them, we've obviously mentioned the Falcons at the Saints could be a game that could go towards the playoffs. Bucks need to win. Packers need to win. And then Bills Miami, that's probably your only 3 games that you can really say. Sorry, Texans
Houston
Colts.
and
That's team of the week.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Texans Colts. So, yeah, before games that actually got something really properly riding on it.
What do you right? So I've got a question for you then. Before we move on to our fantasy studs and sleepers, well, our studs and sleepers for the week. Would you be resting players just now, or would you like to maintain the momentum? There's different ways of looking at it. It's a good idea to get your guys a wee bit of recharge their energy and get the batteries recharged a wee bit. Any niggling injuries, just let them heal up a wee bit, or is it better just to keep them in that match sharp, ready to go, going out to war every week, just battling on? Studs, what would you do?
For me, I think the way the NFL works, I think you need to listen to your players first and foremost. If they are telling you they've got niggles, then the easy option is just sit them down. If they've got something on the line, like a monetary aspect to their contract, or they've got a record to get, as I'd mentioned there with Travis Kelce's looking to get to 1,000 yards for the season, let them, because that's probably, again, it probably goes hand in hand with his contract. There's probably something in his contract to say he'll get a 2 million bonus if he hits 1,000 yards. So you're helping these guys from that perspective. Yeah, it's a risk if they get injured, but again, these guys are putting their body on the line every single week, so they're wanting to, the incentives are there for them to hit, and that's what they want to hit every season. So I think you listen to our players. For me, if there is a niggle, it's a sit down shot straight away. There's no discussion on it. If they've got a contract incentive, then let them play to hit that incentive and then sit them down after that.
Look at one with Gronk a couple of years ago when he was mic'd up and he went to Tom Brady and just said, I need one more catch for $1 million. And I don't even think the play call was even to Gronk, but I think Brady still got it to him. It was like,
that was
the
Bucks. Was it the
Bucks? It was one of the last plays of the game or something like that, the season, whatever it was.
That's right.
And he got him that one catch and he got him $1 million because he was mic'd up for the game and there's a video going to the sideline telling everybody just get $1 million for that one catch. For me, I think it depends on the team. I agree with Studs. If players have got injuries, then yeah, 100%. But if you're a team like, for example, the Packers, right? Say the Packers had already secured the playoffs, right? I think with a team like them who are building momentum and going into the playoffs, I think you keep your players in. Maybe not for the full game, but 3 quarters at least. Keep the momentum going, keep the players gelling. I think a team like that, then play them. Somebody like the Ravens, rest them. Do you know what I mean? I think it all depends on the scenario. I remember a couple of years back, the Cowboys done it. They had the rest of the players in the lost the last game of the season in the playoffs, and it just didn't happen. The first game, but one and done. And the chat was always you shouldn't have arrested the players because they were building momentum up coming into the end of the season, and you basically broke that momentum even just for that week. So I think it depends on your scenario and your situation you're in. If you are way out in front and you know, like the 49ers, like the Ravens, so the Chiefs to an extent, but they know they're not going to be caught and they don't really need the momentum as such, then you rest them. But something like the Packers, teams like that are in the Rams, I can understand them resting Stafford, but I think the Rams will play the majority of their starters to an extent for most of the, again, just to keep that momentum going towards the playoffs.
you're probably wanting somebody like Cup to kind of keep going as well, because obviously he's missed a fair bit of time from injury. So you're wanting him to keep the momentum going of being up to match speed, essentially. And then again, we've mentioned about Puka, as I say, the records are on the line for him. So I do agree with what Dan's saying as well. If you're a momentum team, for me, the Chiefs haven't been great on offense. So you could take the first 2 quarters and play your starters and try and build a little bit of momentum for going into the wild card round, and use those first 2 quarters, similar to a pre-season game. Use the 2 quarters, play your starters, and try and build a little bit of momentum into your team, and then get the guys off. Or if it's not working in the first quarter, get them off. Do you know what I mean? And take it back to the practice field.
Yeah.
Would it be better not to bring them on then for maybe the fourth quarter, just so the other team maybe that wee bit more tired? You're hoping that
I would say no, based on the fact that you're going to have them sitting for 3 quarters, and then you're risking injury by bringing them in for that last quarter.
It's not like football; they can't go behind the and warm up and do their stretches and all.
No, I'm with Dan on that one.
Keep their legs going. I mean, so I think that would have the opposite impact. I think.
I'm with Dan on that one. You start them, and the thing is as well, you're not going to be putting them against a team that's fatigued, if you like, when you get into the wild card round. You're going to be putting them against the starters for that other team, so who are going to be fresh. So you want them going against the best other team's got to offer, essentially.
What you've also got to think as well is the matchup you've got. Whoever you're playing against, that defense could have backups playing, because if they've got nothing to play for, they're going to give these guys a bit of game time. So, let's who we've got. So the Seahawks against the Cardinals, for example, the Cardinals probably won't put their full strength defense out because they don't need to. Do you know what I mean? So you get the guys in against backups for the first couple of quarters and just kind of keep them going, get a couple of catches, get a bit of momentum, what Stud says for the Chiefs. I say it all depends on the situation and the team that's going at, but I can see it from both sides.
Okay, good. Right, let's move on then to our fantasy.
Before you do the fantasy ones, I do have a point about the Arrowhead Invitational. I know I do always harp on about it, and we've mentioned the fact that it's on tour this year, potentially.
Right. What ref's fault was it, Studs? What ref's fault?
Not at all. I'm not going to blame a ref on this one. What I was going to say is, do you remember the last time that the Arrowhead Invitational was at risk and who the number 1 seed was that year?
Ooh, no, I don't.
I'm going to guess it must be the Ravens, or you wouldn't be making this point, I'm guessing.
No, it was actually the Tennessee Titans. It was the year the Titans finished the number 1 overall in the AFC, and they went and guffed it up and got beat in the divisional round. So I've already said that I think it'll be the Bills versus the Texans, and I think the Bills are going to go 1 and done, which then means you're looking at the Texans versus the Ravens. And the number 2 seed's already going to be out in the wild card round, so that would just mean the Texans need to beat the Ravens, and then the Arrowhead Invitational would be back on, because if the Texans beat the Ravens, your new number 1 seed's the Chiefs. So it's not out of the realms of possibility that it's back at Arrowhead again.
What you're calling that is clutching at straws. Is that what you call that?
So do you think the Texans could beat the Bills?
Yes.
Do you think they're good enough to beat the Ravens? Then
no.
Well, time will tell.
There we go.
I think it'll be a cracking game. It'll be an absolute cracker of a game to go to the divisional round and then the two of them play against each other. It's probably, I'd maybe say a year, maybe 2 years early for the Texans. But things, surprises happen. I mean, injuries happen, whatever. But if you put both teams side by side right now, the Ravens win it. Maybe not comfortably, but the Ravens win it.
I think if Dale was playing, I'd have more confidence in the Texans' offense. I think the fact that he's missing, Noah Brown's been great as a backup, but he's not as good as Tag Dale's been this year. But just to say that it is still potentially, there is still that optimism that it may go through.
That's what me saying.
Dalvin Cook would run right over them.
I mean, who have we got in the NFC? Sorry for a second. That's what me saying the NFC Championship game could go through Dallas.
Oh, it could, use a second.
I know, but I'm saying who's going to beat the 49ers with the rest of the teams?
The Rams, is the Rams no got McVay's number? Shanahan's number?
Oh, you never know. You never know. But that means the Rams then need to beat potentially us if
Guys,
we don't win this weekend.
We're moving on. We're moving on. Right, okay. Fantasy studs and sleepers. fantasy season's over. I don't know about how you guys did. I had mixed bag. I got another Jobby Bowl trophy. I'm going for the three-peat basically this year, and I can't see anybody beat me to it again. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag, but I've done well in other leagues. But I need to get better. Need to get really into my my drafting in the off season here. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some people that are really good at the college football, and we'll get some podcasts done by the crew, and I'll be able to steal some pick ideas from those. Stay tuned for them. Right, Dan, I'm coming to you for the top QB for, let's see, who's your stud and who's your sleeper. And listen, I'm not one of these ones where this sleeper is just somebody that's really, really good, but
No,
they're
that's
saying
not
that
the
they're
point
going
of
to think.
sleeper. That's not the sleeper.
I
Got
want
to be
a
somebody you
proper
wouldn't
sleeper,
start.
right?
Right, so
Exactly.
my
Go for it.
stud was going to be a homer pick, and then I thought about it. Thought there's no way Dak Prescott finishes that full game. I think we get up by a certain score, he gets pulled. So I changed it to Josh Allen because he's the only quarterback playing this week that is a stud. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, I don't. I think Josh Allen will do better than maybe a CJ Stroud at Indianapolis. I think it'll be a tight game. So I know that probably is a tight game, but yeah, got Josh Allen for my stud. Sleeper, that's a complete sleeper. Someone that wasn't even going to be starting. If you'd asked last week, and I'm going to go with Carson Wentz purely for the fact that I think, as we mentioned, the Rams won't pull all their starters. I think they'll have N'Keal and Cooper Couple stay in. Kyrie Williams will probably play a lot of the game, so I think he'll pick. If this was a fantasy week, I think Carson Wentz would be a good shout to pick up a decent amount of points. But yeah, so Carson Wentz, why not?
And for running back, then studs coming to you.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go. I suppose they're probably both sleepers because I would say that they'll either be run about the free agency wire in both scenarios. And again, it's similar to what Dan is talking about with Carson Wentz. CMC isn't going to play this week. So I think, well, the obvious one is that you're going to unleash the missile in Elijah Mitchell for the 49ers. So I think he'll have a good game, whether it be volume, whatever it may be. I think he'll have a good game. And the other one, I can see Pacheco getting rested, which would then leave Clyde Edwards-Helaire to have the backfield to himself with Blaine Gabbert, and I think he'll have a good game as well. Because the Chargers defence is rotten against the run.
Do you know what would be hilarious this week? See if receivers caught every pass that Blaine Gabbert threw. Who would it be to blame for all the drops?
No comment.
Right. I'm hit for top wide receivers. We've mentioned them earlier on. They've got an important game, and I think it's really time for him to continue his dominance in the wide receiver position. And that's Mike Evans. Him and Baker, I think, are going to be cooking this weekend. So looking forward to him. And someone else that we mentioned earlier on as well. His team really needs him to step up, especially with the injuries that they've got. And he seems to just, like you say, always pops up with a touchdown and getting some good yardage as well. And that's the Green Bay Packers, Jaden Reed, is my sleeper. Deadly Steve, Dan, who is your stud and sleeper for the defense?
The man with tight ends.
Probably. I've mistyped it then. Studs, over to you.
I was going to say, because I'd looked at defences and then I had a quick scan at the notes you'd sent over that had me as tight ends. So I'm sitting scrolling for tight ends here. So for me, again, we've kind of, I'm going to jump on your bandwagon. We've mentioned Baker, we've mentioned the Bucks, we've mentioned Mike Evans. They're playing Carolina. Carolina have been utter dross on offense. The obvious choice for me in defense is the Bucks. The other one that I think could maybe cause a wee surprise. I don't want to say the Cardinals because my heart's not in the Cardinals actually producing anything either, to be fair. again, the Jets, I don't know if you can really call them a sleeper as such because their defense is so good and they're going up against the Patriots. So maybe the Bucks is a sleeper, and then you've got the Jets as your stud, to be honest, because the Jets defense has probably been what's been positive for them this year.
Okay, I'll give you that one. I was going to veto that there, but no, I'm happy with that. Jets, of course,
Flip it
they've
round.
relied. Yeah, they've definitely relied on their D this season. Top tight end then, Dan.
Again, probably one of the only matchups that actually means something. He's not. Do you know what? He's not hit the heights I think he was expected to this season, but I think the Bills are going to really need him this weekend against the Dolphins. So I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid for the stud. Sleeper. This one again, I debated again about how long are we going to keep the starters in the game this weekend was where I was kind of thinking of. So I had originally went with Jake Ferguson, but with the same logic, it's always got to be Jake Ferguson.
He's always in there every week.
But I have changed it. I'm changing it because I think, again, like Dak, I think we get to a certain point in that game, if we are in the lead, he gets pulled and Peyton Hendershot and whoever else going to Sean McHugh, and I think he's still there. So I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz.
I was going to say Dalton Schultz. I knew you'd gone there.
See,
it's not against Cowboys, though. It's not getting that much.
Exactly. I knew it.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz. He's been good for the Texans this year again. But since Tank Dell went down, him and Noah Brown have both stepped up to kind of pick up that share that the Tank Dell drop off. So yeah, I'm going to go Dalton Schultz.
Like that shout. To be fair, I thought Pitts was one that was maybe because I think he's looked better the last kind of 2 to 3 weeks. I think he scored a touchdown last week as well. So
yeah.
And Arthur's misuse of Bijan, he seems to maybe have found use for Kyle Pitts. But Dalton Schultz, I like that one better than Pitts, to be fair. I think the Pitts one you'd be watching like that.
You'd stick Pitts in your fantasy team and they'd just throw all the passes to Bijan Robinson.
Right, this is what everybody's been waiting for. Thanks very much for everyone who's been viewing in live and everyone listening in. You've been waiting for this. Who's going to be the stud and sleeper kickers for week 18? And you guys should probably guess who I'm going for my stud.
I know who you're going for already.
Terrible last week.
A bad week last week. He had a bad
I had my fantasy team. It was shocking last week.
He had made one of 3 field goal attempts.
He missed the first two.
Made one of the 3 field goal attempts in both of his extra point tries during Sunday's 37-17 loss to the Bears. So it's time for a wee resurrection for Irn-Cru, and he's going to be my stud for this week. And for my sleeper, I'm going to go for, again, it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a game that's going to mean something, and I'm going for Anders Carlson of the Green Bay Packers. Big fan of his brother at the Raiders, but I think Anders is starting to come onto a game a wee bit himself, and this is going to be his breakout. I think he's got to put the Bears to the sword on Sunday. Superb, guys.
Did I share the video about Irn-Cru on the group chat?
You did. It was terrific.
I don't know if I shared it or not. It was a great video.
It was just a nice wee feel-good story about how this wee guy from South Korea came over, and it was his way of integrating it. I think he'd started off as a soccer player, but then he would see the guys playing American football and he get involved. And his way of trying to play a wee bit more with them and spend more time with them, and his English wasn't that good, and he wanted to say, "Can I hang out with you at the weekend?" And the thing he said to them was, "I'm bored," and that's what opened it up for him. And it was magic to hear just how they got him involved. Again, another story of transition for our football, soccer, into the NFL. So you never know. There's hope for a few Scottish guys in there that they can make the transition over. There's one of the Irish guys, of course. The Irish NFL boys have been bigging him up all year. I think he's at the Packers as well.
Daniel, I forgot his
name escaped.
I know it's annoyed me. It's went right out of my head, but I think that's where we aim for. Right, we've got our young ones just coming through now.
Yep.
Can't forget the Scottish Hammer, Jamie Gillan.
Exactly.
Gillan
and Gano as well. Listen, that's how we get in. That's how we make our name for ourselves. Finest export since whiskey from Scotland.
Well, we need to send our crew games day videos to NFL scouts.
We need to get that done.
Legendary. That's off season. We're going to get a wee day down at Palace Grounds in Hamilton. I think we're going to stink the place up.
The Crew Combine. I think that's what we should call it. The Crew Combine.
We're not really selling the stereotypes for Scotland here. We just like to kick stuff as hard as we can.
Exactly.
Just get
afterwards.
Sponsored by Marini's Chip Shop and stuff like that. Superb. Guys, this has been fun. Great fun. We've had a wee bit of a break over the Christmas holidays, but it's brilliant to be back. Just a shame that the season's come to the end, but that's what we've been waiting for. This is where the excitement really ramps up when we get to the off season, the playoffs, and then the divisional round, and then the Super Bowl. It's nearly here. We've got another month of full football ahead of us, and the crew's going to be there for you. Guys, thank you very much for joining me tonight. It's been an absolute blast. Dan, thank you.
Cheers, thanks very much. And to steal a phrase from Scott Hansen, we're getting to the witching hour of the season.
Witching hour of the absolute studs. Thanks very much.
No hassles, man. Always a pleasure.
You're away to play your flight simulator now, by the looks of it, with your headphones on there.
I know. Got it sitting in the back and the laptop behind.
To be fair, at least he'd be allowed to be a captain unlike Jair Alexander.
It's the fact that he nearly messed up the call as well. The referee had to check with him and say to him, do you mean the fair? It's like, that's what I said, defence.
There we go. I've been Keith McGinty. Thanks very much for watching and for listening. You can follow the crew on X, Instagram, Threads. We're all over the place. Just if you search at Grid Irn-Cru, that's IRNCRU, bit like Irn-Cru, but don't tell them. You'll be able to get us anywhere that you download your podcast from. And we'll be back next Monday. I believe the review crew will be meeting to discuss the finest aspects and all the end results of week 18. So thanks very much for listening, and we'll speak to you again next week.